What if the things that you love began to collide with the plans that God has laid out for you? What if the random relationships in your life and all the activities that we feel like are so mundane and boring all of a sudden had a focus and they felt intentional and they felt meaningful? What if the things that have caused you the very most hurt in your life began to heal and actually became the birthplace of your deepest passions? This is a call to wake up, a call to dream, a call to dare to believe that God has a purpose and a design for your life.
So, in the year 2000, Parker Palmer wrote a book called Let Your Life Speak. I was about a decade late reading this, and essentially the question he asked within the first 2 pages was, is the life I lead the life that longs to live in me? Is the everyday work of my hands, my thoughts, and my actions reflective of the life that God ordained for me, that he chose for me, that he's established for me? I look at Psalm 139. I memorized that in college. I had no idea why, but I had that it would reflect what I would need to know 20 years later in my mid-30s. And essentially he says, you've searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. Before a frame was hidden from me, I was made in the secret place. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Before a day was given to me, your eyes saw my unformed body. All my days were numbered before one of them came to be. This is a love letter from the Father. And somehow along the way, like myself and many of my friends, we charged off to college like, ready to shoot hell with a water pistol. And then somewhere along the way, 20 years later, I am buried in Cheerios and poop. And I'm somehow going, I don't know if this is the life that longs to live in me. Maybe we'll just go to Target today, or just go to Starbucks and maybe meet a friend and cry. Yes and amen. Thank you. There's this stirring, this angst, this wrestling that says, why is this not really aligning with this? What has happened here? I know that you crafted me with intention, but for some reason there's a disparity between the reality of the promises of Jesus and the reality of the brokenness of my life. I cannot even keep up with my laundry. At best, socks are clean. At best. At best, I went to the store Sunday night at 9 p.m. for food for lunches. At best. So if you're here in this room today, perhaps you're a little like me. Perhaps you're a reluctant leader. I think of this gathering. I'm a come alongsider. I'm a let somebody else initiator. So I can kind of stay safe, from harm's way, or risk to put my foot out and go, okay, I sense you're stirring something here, but I really don't have faith in you to pull this thing off. So what's funny about this, even with Q Women, I'm a reluctant leader in Q Women. So this whole year, instead of wanting to really just grow this thing and build it and give it identity, I just want to cry on my carpet and be like, God, what are you doing today in our time in 2014? I sense that you are stirring the pot for your daughters globally. We're on fast forward right now. We're in the rinse cycle because there is a stirring, a calling, a beckoning that says, hey, girls, I'm your Father in heaven and I want to set you free, okay? I'm going to take this earring off right this second, and I apologize. The door to your jail cell doesn't even have a lock on it. It's actually open. It's wide open, and you're hanging out, holding on to the bars, because you just don't believe that he's going to take you from here to here, that he'll be with you, that he'll bring people around you, that he'll walk you towards bravery and courage. I think of the passage in Amos the Lord gave to me in January. He said, hey guys, there's a famine in the land right now, in this wealthy, affluent society that we live in, and it is not of food and water. Is anyone starving out there? Any foodies? No, we're not starving. We're not starving of bread and water. There's a famine in the land, not of food and water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. How long has it been since you heard God? Or have we covered it up with our comfort and our man-made worlds? Amos goes on, he says, but the day will come when I will restore my fallen house, and when the grain and the grapes, that is the fruit of the Spirit, when a branch is attached to the vine, the grapes will grow faster than they can even be harvested. This is what's coming for women. The grain and the grapes are going to grow faster than they can even be harvested, and in these days, these women will rebuild their cities and be firmly planted. So how does that sound? You guys up for that? So here we are, women. We're gathered today on a seemingly random Monday in November, and I believe that we are here in response to a call. His voice is getting louder, and we cannot shake it. And we are hungry and thirsty for his heart. We are tired of playing it safe. We are done pretending it is all right in our world. We want healing of our mind, body, and soul. We sense urgency, and we want to respond. We want to stand up. We want to take the arms of all our timid friends around us, and we want to press on. Okay, yeah, right, Rebecca, that sounds great. Really? I mean, I love it. It's all like bravado and, like I want to just get out a military rifle or shoot one of those like Chinese stars in a tree or something. But what does that even mean for today? You hear this, you're like, that's great, let's go dauntless. But what's the other one where the abnegation? Yeah, that's me. I'm stuck between those two worlds, okay? And you hear this and you're like, it sounds too brave. Because if you knew me, you know that I'm broken and desperate in need of a Savior. So I too can relate. We are wearing battle wounds of the journeys that we have walked. I myself had a son at age 26. Beautiful, dashing boy. 6 hours later, he was diagnosed with Down syndrome. He now stands as tall as I remember 3 years ago rocking on the fetal position of my walk-in closet in New York City saying, will I always struggle with depression? After moving to New York for 18 months, I had panic disorder, and on September 20th of 2011, unbeknownst to me why that day and how it was going to all go down, Jesus rescued me from panic disorder, and he healed me, and he set me free. And I am like the man that says, I don't even know what's happening, guys, but once I was blind and now I can see. Y'all can figure out what Jesus is or who he is or what his role in it is, because I was here and now I'm here. I was lost and now I'm found. I was blind and now I see. And now that I see, the scales have fallen from my eyes and I see women all around me in this nation and in this globe that are dying from fear. I started digging into anxiety and panic and depression, and all it is fear. Every single bit of it is fear. And 1 in 4 women are on medication for anxiety or depression. 40 billion people, $40 billion are spent on the treatment of this. 40 million people suffer from this, which means if it's not you, it's someone that you know and love. So if you can imagine this, for the last 2 years, I've dug deep into this topic. Because if we're his daughters and he says, I'm setting you free, then we obviously Not sure we buy it because our everyday says, no, I don't feel so free. I can't even get on an airplane without freaking out, or sleep through the night without freaking out, or watch my kids on the playground without freaking out. So clearly something's not right. So I started to study the work of Viktor Frankl. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He's a Holocaust survivor. And unlike his predecessors, Freud, who centered on the will to pleasure, and Adler, who focused on the will to power, Frankl, he said his primary motivation for all of us in life is the will to meaning. He says everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life to carry out a concrete assignment that demands fulfillment. Therein, she cannot be replaced, nor can her life be repeated. Everyone's task is as specific as her opportunity to fulfill it. What? I kind of like looking at the right and the left of what everyone else is doing. And I kind of want to do what they're doing because that seems to be popular, or that seems to have a following, or it seems to be pretty, and it kind of keeps me safe. I'm going to be depressed about being safe, but I'm still going to be safe. This meaning is unique and specific, can be fulfilled by you alone, Ephesians 2:10. If we don't want to hear Frankl and we want to just read the Bible, then here we are in the Bible. For as we are his creation, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time so that we should walk in them. It was prepared ahead of time. Psalm 139 says, hey, I have intention for your life, for every single one of you in this place. I need you. The vine needs the branch to produce fruit. We think that we're just dangling from the vine, helpless, and at some point, there's actually a transference. So we are all of a sudden on the downflow of all the gifts, all the resources, all the health, all the nourishment from the vine. And then the fruit comes at the end of the branch. It doesn't mean we brought the fruit. It means that the branch, when it nourished us, brought the fruit. But there would be no fruit without an actual branch, which means God says, you are my holy people who I love, every single one of you daughters, and I need you. I've prepared you for something. This seems so simple and yet so complex. There's something specific for each of us, really? Well, yes. Frankl believed that the root of anxiety in all of us is an unfulfilled responsibility, which means that we know we were made for something and we're not doing it. I'm sorry, guys. This is not a fun way to start the day. Boom, boom, boom. I got 18 minutes. Gabe will not let me go over, or he said everyone else will. So here we are. We're going to talk about calling for the last 6 minutes. Calling is two things. It's where your talents and your burdens collide. It's not abstract. It's not, flowery. It doesn't just descend on your head one day and like No. It's actually digging out and excavating the layers that are already covering the calling that's always been there. Talents and burdens collide. Let's start with talents. Talents are easy. It's easy to identify. Maybe you're too close to it, but get with some girls around your table, get with your closest people who you know you, and say, hey, I know this is going to sound indulgent, but start telling me what I'm good at. Tell me what comes effortless for me. Tell me what makes my heart sing. Tell me what makes me come alive, because I don't want to waste another day living a life that wasn't ordained for me. Show me, tell me, let's wrestle this out. Let's do it together. Let's actually start speaking life over each other. Imagine that. Imagine what will surface that's already there. This is the sisterhood, the bond of the daughters of the king. That is the whole point of the kingdom, that we raise each other into the fullness of what he has already established. We don't cut each other down. We don't take someone out because they're shining brightly. No, it's just we need someone to buff us to a point where we are shining brightly. There's no limit to how bright light needs to be. There's plenty of dark in the world. There's room for every star, every single one of us. So let's start with the giftings. And you look at an 8 and a 9 and a 10-year-old, if you're a mother, you'll see it in your kids. Kids are fearless. They do exactly what they want to do, and they never stop. So it's probably what made you come alive, and you drove your parents crazy. It made sense for me. At age 33, my mom's pushing my son. She's like, I always thought you would write. I was like, I've never heard that before. Would have helped when I was picking a major. So here I go. It makes sense. At 8 and 9 and 10, I was called Becca Book. We didn't have a TV. I read. The library was my best friend. I read 62 Nancy Drew books alone just in 4th grade because I wanted to be her. I wanted to date Ned and solve crime. Dauntless. It all came together. It crystallized in my 30s where I was like, okay, so am I supposed to use the gift of writing and communicating to redeem something? What is that something? It's our burden. Now, the burden is tough. It is gutting to uncover. Most of you, if you've walked through grief recently, it won't be hard. But for some of us, life has looked pretty put together. And for some reason, we have kept our image spotless. But if we answer a question honestly, burden is informed by the family you've been born into, the life you've walked, the journey you've led. It's what's broken your heart. So it made sense for me that, hey, maybe I'll use gift of writing and speaking to redeem what is broken on special needs awareness, on mental health. When I watched my father have his first panic attack and anxiety breakdown, spent a week in a psychiatric hospital when I was 15, hey, connecting the dots. Maybe it makes sense. And I'm gonna advocate for mental health. I'm gonna start to study what makes us whole. And what actually makes us whole is when God says, hey, cultivate the earth. I've put it in you to work, because if you don't, you will go crazy. Viktor Frankl talks about the existential vacuum. It increases in a place of boredom, in a society that's wealthy, because guess what? We're no longer driven by what we have to do. We don't have to hunt for food every day, and we're no longer driven by what we want to do, because we don't even feel a sense of loyalty or commitment to family like past generations. So then we're left with what we want to do. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Oh, man, I'm tired. Tennis was rough today. You guys, I do not like the way she did my nails. I went back and had her redo this one. We're left with what we want to do. And why are we empty? Because we were not made to do what we want to do. Calling begins from a caller. In order to have a calling, there is someone who says, I'm calling you. I set this in motion, and we will not hear it, we will not know what it is unless we stop our lives in the way that we've fashioned them, and we just come before him and we say, okay, I'm done. I know I came here kicking and screaming. I know I came here battling depression. I know I came here through anxiety attacks. I know I came here when my business folded, or when my son was diagnosed with something, or I lost someone, but I'm done. Whatever it took to get to this place, I'm done. And I am here to start anew. When Jesus says, I've come to make all things new, do you know when that begins? It begins with the death of our old life. Our new life begins with the death of our old life. We will not know what this direction looks like if we have not said hasta la vista to this one. I'm done living a life of my own. I am recklessly pursuing the call that you have. And it means it's going to be unknown and scary and terrifying. But the beauty of that is that you're with me. You didn't make me for something that you haven't equipped me to actually handle. In your strength, not mine. You'll bring the people around me, you'll set my eyes on you, and you'll start to make it clear. He just says, make one step. You don't need to know the whole journey. Make one step of obedience, and I will take you there. I will pull back the curtain one layer at a time. 3 seconds. The last thing I'd like to end with is a verse, because, sorry, man, that was quick. Okay. It's right here in Ephesians, the call. I had so many notes, didn't even get to. All right, Ephesians 1:18, I pray that the eyes of your heart might be enlightened so that you may know. The eyes of our hearts be enlightened through revelation of the Spirit, that we will know what is the hope of his calling for us. What are the glorious riches of his inheritance among us, the saints, the daughters, and what it is his immeasurable greatness and power for us who believe to the works of his strength. Receive it. Thank you.